Happy Monday. It is a new week here for the Locked On Penguins podcast. And yes, we are officially starting player season reviews this week. You won't be surprised who I kick off for today's players review. But first, we're going to discuss John Gibson, the rumors I saw over the weekend, and why, to me, it does not make any sense to trade for him, even though, of course, he is from the Pittsburgh area. That's coming up right after this drop.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm, of course, your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter, Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter, @LNR Penguins. And, of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. We're free and available on all platforms. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. You can create an account if you download the app and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. So let's jump right into this. I saw a couple rumors over the weekend about, Penguins trading for John Gibson. And, at this time of year, people, it's just catnip. That's really all it is. It's just fallacy stuff. Could it come true? Sure. But people, the Penguins don't even have a general manager right now. Talking about these kind of rumors, there's honestly just no point. People writing about them, they're doing it for clicks, I think, at least. I haven't really seen anyone actually credible, link the Penguins to John Gibson. And I don't expect that to happen because, again, they don't have a front office right now. They have a bunch of interim dudes running the show alongside Mike Sullivan, who's doing the player exit interviews. He's not really running the show. He's just assisting in something else. But, we're 10, 11 days into the search. This is all a bunch of crap. But, say the new management comes in and they would be interested in training for John Gibson. That would be a little bit of a red flag for me because Gibson, he is not the guy you want to spend quality assets for to come in here and start 50, 60 games for you. This is, if this were John Gibson from, 2018, 2019, okay. But not the John Gibson right now. Let's get into the numbers a little bit. He played 53 games for the Ducks this season. He gave up 200 goals. Expected goals against was 188. He gave up basically 12 goals more than he was expected to give up this season. Not good enough at all. .899 save percentage, 3.99 goals against average. Basically, he was giving up 4 goals a game. He was below average in save percentage, below league average, I should say, save percentage, and he ranked 100 out of. So there were 107 goaltenders who played 5-on-5 minutes this season. He ranked 100th out of 107 in terms of the goal saved above expected. And I'm not saying that's the end-all be-all stat. I like it overall to use. I think it's honestly better than goals against average, in all this. But that is not good. The goalies ranked below him: Felix Sandstrom, Ville Husso, Jonathan Quick, Jack Campbell, Spencer Martin, Kaapo Kähkönen, Elvis Merzlikins. Certainly not good company there, to say the least. He is also signed for 4 more years at $6.4 million per season. Why would you want to give up assets for someone like that? He is a worse version of Tristan Jarry. And he's older than Tristan Jarry. If you're saying what are the options between Jarry and Gibson, I would rather them bring back Jarry and then get a new backup for him. That shouldn't even be a hot take. That should just be a logical take. Jarry's had better numbers since he came into the league than Gibson. I mean, that's just a fact. And again, there was a time when, John Gibson was a quality goaltender. We can dig into the numbers here a little bit. Before this season, he was 904 last year. But, going back to 2016, 920, 2017, 924, 2018, 926, 2019, 917. These last 4 seasons, though, 904, 903, 904, 899. Those are in terms of save percentage. And yes, have the Ducks been really bad these past couple of seasons? Absolutely. They have stunk. And maybe that pays into it a little bit, but it's also a very valid point that he has not been the same goaltender that he was to start out, for his first 6 years of his career. He's just not. No, he's 29 now. Cool. But no, I'm not giving up premium assets for a guy who just had the worst season of his career to date this past season. I think that would be a really foolish move by the Penguins. Is he going to potentially get traded this offseason? Yes, because I think the Ducks may want to get him in a winning situation. But the Penguins, they shouldn't be giving up, first round pick, second round pick, top prospect, whatever, in order to get a goalie who's not that good. I'd rather them go out there and honestly try to offer sheet Jeremy Swayman. I'd throw everything at Nashville to try to get UC Saros. I saw someone in the YouTube comments, I think last week's mentioned Aiden Hill. That actually would not be that bad of an option. I believe I have his numbers up here in terms of I'm just making sure. Yeah, I have the numbers here. So he's in Vegas right now. He ranked 48th out of 107 in terms of goals saved above expected. He saved 1 goal above expected. This year played 27 games, 914 save percentage, 2.5 goals against average. That's someone who I would think will be a pretty stellar backup if you can get either a new starter or if you do bring back Tristan Jarry on a short-term deal. Aiden Hill, that's someone who I think the Penguins could really go after. I'm glad that YouTube commenter mentioned him. I didn't realize how good his numbers were. And he's been in some pretty bad situations. I believe he's played in San Jose. I believe he was also in Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. He's in Vegas now. He's put up some good numbers for them. And 27 games, not all of them were in Vegas. Playing on some of those crappy teams, even though they weren't good, that's someone who I would definitely be looking forward. I'd be looking forward to seeing if they could acquire during the offseason. But just ponying up a lot of assets to trade for a goalie who's just washed at this point, who has 4 more years left and is almost making $6.5 million, he's not it. That's just not it. And I believe Ryan Wilson from Hockey Buzz wrote about it. I believe Nick Berlansky of the Tip of the Iceberg podcast touched on it on his show on Monday morning. I probably feel like a broken record. I'm probably like the last one to get to it. He and Nick Horwath do great work. I'm sure they have the same take I do. But yeah, just makes no sense. You want to get a new goaltender or new goaltenders, I should say. I think you got to go elsewhere and look to other goalies who are either similar in terms of numbers to Jarry or had better numbers than Jarry and DeSmith for this season. Gibson, hard pass. But again, all these rumors right now, it's total catnip. They don't even have a general manager, people. They haven't even started interviews yet because the first round's not over. Like Rob Rossi reported last week, they've been gathering names. They haven't even interviewed anyone yet. So this process, it's going to continue to be like this, I think, for the next several weeks. So again, John Gibson, just throw out in the trash. Not really worth getting into at all. So that wraps up this first segment of the show. Coming up in the second segment, we're going to get into Sidney Crosby's season review, how good he was, and how good I think he can be next year. Plus, to end the show, we'll get into some Stanley Cup Playoffs talk and how, the Penguins would probably not be doing better than the Islanders or Panthers right now, but why, this was always going to be the case when it comes to those 2 wildcard teams sneaking in. But before we get into that, we do have to discuss game time. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. And I know I've had plenty of times where it's been stressful for me. The Steel Panther show last month, honestly, getting tickets to that Penguins Blackhawks game was a little stressful as well because those tickets were going really quick. It was going to be a playoff game. Luckily, my girlfriend and I were able to get some tickets at the last minute. Now, you have Game Time. It's the fast and easiest way to buy tickets for all of the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun that you will have. It is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, I'm back in this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter, Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter, Illinois Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. We're free and available on all platforms. So, kicking off our player season reviews today, Sidney Crosby. What another outstanding year from him. 33 goals, 93 points, 82 games. His 93 points were the most points that he has had since 2018-19 when he put up 100 points. It looked like he was going to get to 100 this season, but he had a little bit of a cold stretch, towards the end of the season. Wasn't able to get it. Hopefully next year he'll be able to do it. Overall has 1,102 points. We're going to touch on that a little later on. He was stupendous. 18 of his 60 assists came on the power play. So 42 of the assists came even strength. He was an absolute menace at 5-on-5 this year. If had the Penguins gone in, I would have seriously wanted people to give him some Hart votes, not to win it because Connor McDavid is going to win it, but to have him potentially be a finalist because he was doing everything in his power to carry the Penguins into the dance. He was their best player this season. Even at age 35, he's still putting up 93 freaking points. I mean, there's no one else like him. I don't know. He's only had 2 100-point campaigns since 2014, but he's still been at a point per game. 93 points this year. Last year, 84 points in 69 games. The year before that, 62 and 55. 2019-20, 47 points in 41 games. 179, 89, and 82. He is still kicking so much butt that it is almost impossible for him to not be at a point per game. It's going to be a really weird day when he does have a season when he probably is on a point per game. I think it's going to be maybe when he's 40 or something like that. But right now, ever since he's basically come into the league, he has finished at a point per game or better. There is no one else like him in the league right now. Be curious to see, where he gets in some of the votings for the awards. Selke last year was 34th. I don't know if he'll finish top 5 in the Hart. I would potentially seriously consider having him in the top 10. Selke, maybe he'll finish a little higher than 34th last year, but, he was stupendous. You look at the underlyings this season, played in all 82 games. That's the first time he's done that ever. Actually, no, it's only the second time he's done that ever. The only other time he did that was 2018, had 89 points in 82 games. So the fact that he, played all 82 games this year is a remarkable feat for the Penguins captain. 82 games this season at 5-on-5, over 1,200 minutes, and his underlyings were tremendous. When he was on the ice, the Penguins had 54% of the shot attempts. They also had 57% of the actual goals for, 67 goals for, 51 goals against, 71% of the expected goals for on the ice. Scoring chances, 55% of those when Penguins had when he was on the ice. The Penguins also had 341 high danger chances for, 264 against, up to 56%, and then 42 high danger goals for, 29 high danger chances against. And his on-ice shooting percentage was 9%, which goes in line with basically his career average. Another just remarkable year for the Penguins captain. And, I expect him to honestly play at this level or close to it again next season. Why not? Seriously, I know he'll be 36 by the time that season starts, but he has shown no signs of slowing down. He hasn't. You just go back, look through all of his seasons so far. Out of 18 seasons that he's been in there, 18 years, I should say, and he won't stop. Like, people really need to, if you're not already somehow, how do I say this? If you're not already appreciating Sidney Crosby's greatness, I think it's time you do, because there will never be another player like this again in the NHL's history. You go to the website where you can see who has the most points in NHL history. Obviously, it's Wayne Gretzky, but Sid is going to be moving up the ranks next season. Right now, he's 15th all-time in points, 1502. Next season, he's 29 points away from Paul Coffey. He will break him. He's also 30 points away, 31 from Mark Recchi, so he will get at least 213th next season. Joe Thorne at 1539, I think he breaks that. So he'll be at least as high as 12th next season. And honestly, if he gets 77 points, which I honestly expect him to do, he'll be 11th. He'll pass Ray Bork. The big one will be if he can pass Phil Esposito, who finished his career with 1,590 points. Crosby needs 88 points to do that. If he has another season like this, where he plays every game and finishes with 93 points, he will be top 10 in NHL history in terms of having the most points of all time. And then he'll have a really good shot the season after in passing Joe Sakic. That's another one. And then we'll have to see if he can pass Mario Lemieux, Steve Yzerman, Marcel Dion, Ron Francis. Those guys all have over 1,700 points. That's going to be a little harder, but I expect Sid to at least get into 12th in this list next season, potentially 11th. And by the time his career ends, I think he'll at least be 9th all time in points. Yeah, I mean, I think he'll pass Sakic by the time his career's done. The bigger question will be whether he has 200 plus more points than him, where he can pass Mario and be the Penguins' all-time points leader. Because Mario finished his career with 1,723. But he was tremendous. I expect at least another 30-goal seasons from him next year. I honestly do think he gets 90 points next season. Now, there's no one harder on himself. There's no one. I just probably screwed that up again. There's no one harder on him than himself. His offseason, training is obviously second to none. He is going to be ready to go for next season, and I think he's going to have a massive chip on his shoulder for getting this team back in the playoffs. He is not happy with how this went. Him, Gino, Tanger, they want playoff hockey in the city. I think he's going to take it personally heading into next season. I think he's going to be in line for another big, big season. But a tremendous year for him. Great on the power play, especially good at even strength. His two-way game continues to thrive. He is still one of the 5 best players in the sport and will go down as one of the 5 greatest players to ever play this game. So those are my thoughts on Sidney Crosby's season as a whole. Wingers-wise, I would like to see him play again with Jake Gensel and Rickard Rakell. I know he likes playing with Brian Rust. That's just, from what I've heard. But I still think Rakell is the better fit on that top line. So again, that does it for this segment. Coming up to end the show, we're going to get into some talk regarding the Stanley Cup playoffs and why, no, the Penguins would not be doing better than any of these wildcard teams are right now in the East. So stay tuned for that coming up after this commercial break. All right, I'm back here in this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter, Hunter Hodes, follow the show's Twitter at @Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. We're free and available on all platforms. So, playoffs are really heating up now, about halfway through the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And, the wild card series, the favorites are 6-2 combined. And honestly, I said this on my Twitter yesterday on Sunday. Did you expect anything different? The Islanders are an average team with a top 3 to 5 goaltender. They are getting boat raced by the Canes. And the Hurricanes are literally banged up. Now, you could argue, the Penguins could be giving them a better fight. They have more firepower. Sure, but their depth stinks. Their defense wasn't that good down the stretch, and we don't know how good Tristan Jarry would be in a full series, especially when he's been banged up. He admitted after the season that he's been playing hurt all year. So I think in all likelihood to be 3-1, they probably maybe would have been swept. At the end of the day, they didn't deserve to get in because they couldn't beat the Chicago Blackhawks towards the end of the season, and they couldn't beat a lot of these other teams. But what you're seeing right now in these wildcard races is how that the wildcard playoff series, is how that wildcard race went towards the end of the season. It was a bunch of average to below average teams fighting it into the dance. The Panthers, for example, I don't think the Panthers are that good. They played Boston decently those first 2 games. They just got blown out on home ice 2 games in a row, and the Bruins didn't even have David Krejci or Patrice Bergeron. They got blown to hell. And they had to start Sergei Bobrovsky in Game 4. That's a losing recipe. Panthers have some scoring. Kachuk, Verhaeghe, Bennett's back. Sasha Barkov, obviously. Ekblad's hurt, though, but he's been good all year. But Paul Maurice is an unserious coach. I don't think he's any good at what he does. The Bruins are a juggernaut. The Canes, that's a terrible matchup for the Islanders because they are basically the Islanders, except, they can actually score and finish their chances. But they play kind of a similar style to them where they can shut them down very easily. That's what you're seeing in that series. The Hurricanes are making it very difficult on the Islanders to get chances, and then obviously they can't score on them. Sorokin's actually looked human, which is weird. He was arguably the best goaltender in the league this season. But, someone like that can only cover up the warts so much. The Penguins would not be in a better spot right now. They would be at least down 3-1 to either of these two teams. And again, they didn't deserve to get in. They were an average to below average team as well. And that wild card race showed a lot of flaws with these teams. Whoever was going to get in this race was probably going to lose and potentially lose quickly. Right now, it's shaping up for the Bruins to take care of business in Boston, to not go back to Sunrise, and it's shaping up for Carolina, which, knock on wood, they don't usually lose at home very often. They will try to end this series down in Raleigh after blowing out the Islanders in Game 4. So cool. If those two things happen, wow. Those two teams that got in the head of the Penguins won a combined 2 games. I'll say this. Would you all have wanted to watch? I was on the record of saying that I would rather them got in the playoffs because you never know what can happen. But say this did happen, and the Penguins are down 3-1 right now. Would you have rather them gotten in? Or would you rather have, be where they are right now, cleaned out the front office, and you're just watching games stress-free? Let me know your answers down in the comments. You can DM me on social media and stuff. I would like to know that. Just using that hypothetical. Say they got in, say they're in that same exact situation right now as one of those other two teams. Would you rather be there? Or would you rather be where they are right now, where they made some changes and you're hopeful for next season? Curious to see what you all think. But again, I was never high on the Islanders in that series. People thought Sorokin could steal it. He's not been good so far. They can't score. Barzil's been invisible. But Horvat hasn't done anything. That's a team that I think could make some major changes this offseason. I think they need to decide what direction they need to go in. They got in the playoffs, good. They got in because the Penguins screwed up. The Penguins take care of business. The Islanders probably don't even make it. Or there's a chance they don't make it, depending on what happens with the Panthers in that Hurricanes game. But, that's an organization that's going to be, I'll be curious to see what they do. And then the Panthers, some people had them as have some potential, but they're going up against a juggernaut. The Bruins are the best team in the league. I would have been stunned if they, if this series was 2-2 or 3-1 Panthers right now. I expect the Bruins to end that series in 5. I predicted it was going to be a quick one. I'm going to stick by that. But, those are just 2 right now. But again, at the end of the day, Penguins didn't deserve to get in, but the 2 teams in front of them were really not much better than them. I think there's a path for the Penguins to definitely make the playoffs next season. Some of these other series, Dallas, Minnesota has been so much fun to watch. If you are not watching that series, please tune into it. It has everything. Goals, beautiful passing plays, great goaltending, great defensive work, physical play. There's a true hatred between those 2 teams. The Seattle-Colorado series is incredible. Colorado really turned it on in Game 3. Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar, when they go into God mode, there's nothing you can do. The series has been great. The Devils struck back. Be curious to see if they can do that again tonight, in New York and Madison Square Garden. I'll also say that, that Vegas series, great comeback by the Jets. They just couldn't win it in overtime. Vegas is an interesting one. Let's see if they can finish that one off. Toronto-Tampa's been great. Kyle Dubas giving it to some Tampa fans in the stands. Love to see it. I'll be really curious to see what happens tonight in that one as well. But these playoffs have been a lot of fun. If there's one thing that's been annoying, it's been the officiating. It's been total dog crap. And it gets worse every single year. And the league doesn't do a damn thing about it. They don't give a crap. They don't. They get asked about the officiating at press conferences after the season, and Gary Bettman's like, oh yeah, they're the best in the league. We don't have no problem with them. It's like, but man, it gets worse every year in the playoffs. And the officiating that I've seen in the playoffs, that should debunk any stupid conspiracy that any dumb rival fan has of like any team, whether it's the Penguins, whether it's like, again, any team in the league, where it's like, oh, this team is favored by the refs. They get more calls than my team and all that. Stop. It's never been true. You are seeing that in this year's playoffs, especially the NHL officiating. They stink at their jobs. I think every team that has made it has gotten screwed in some way. Bad calls that should have been made. The intent to blow that Tampa-Toronto game was ridiculous. That was a classic Nashville situation there where they blew the whistle way too early. A lot of really bad calls being made around these games. And it's not a good look for the league. They need to do something about it. Do I expect them to? No. But I think they should. That's just the one main thing that I don't really like what's going on with these playoff games. But they're still been fun to watch. Again, I've been reading Heir to the Empire, just getting ready for the Ahsoka series. I have the other two back there, but I'm going to start as well. But, been doing that, been watching the games, and just been keeping track, and it's been a lot of fun so far. So again, thank you all so much for listening and watching. I really appreciate it. I'll be back with another episode for you all on Tuesday. We'll have to see if maybe some GM stuff comes out in terms of interviews. We'll also continue our player season reviews. So look for that on Tuesday. Again, thank you all so much for tuning into this one. I'll talk with you all. Did I just say Wednesday? Wow. I might have just said Wednesday. Tuesday. I can't even remember at this point. I was just 2 seconds ago. Tuesday, for all intents and purposes, we'll have another player season review and potentially some updates on the GM search if there are any. So again, thank you all so much for tuning in. Talk to you on the next one.